Hi, everybody. Okay, listen, stop. Do not click away from this podcast. I have been told to tell you that. Do not, because I will tell you why. If you really want to know what to eat, and you want to know about the multi-billion-dollar food industry that is trying to poison you, and you want to know all about food politics, then we are sitting here with the world's expert in this, Dr. Marion Nestle. So do not click away, I am telling you, because anywhere you go from here, you will not get the truth like you are going to get today. And I just really do not want you to move from this site, okay? So, all the misinformation online, transformation, weight control, that's what we are about. We have invited all my ex-colleagues from research, and Dr. Nestle has been gracious enough to join us, and it is an honor to be with her because she is the Babe Ruth of her field. And so do not click away. I want to give a little bit of an introduction. I'm going to try to keep it brief, but I have to tell you that it is a long resume. But she does have a doctoral degree in molecular biology. She is no slouch in her intellect. She was Phi Beta Kappa as a undergraduate and also has a master's of degree in public health. She is also the Paulette Goddard Professor of Nutrition, Food Studies, and Public Health Emerita at New York University, which means that she is for perpetually a professor there for as long as she would like to. She's also a visiting professor of nutritional sciences at Cornell University. Her research is part of what she does, and it examined the scientific and socioeconomic influences on food choices, having obesity, food safety, and very importantly, food marketing, which I like to call her. I don't know if people know who Ralph Nader is. Probably everybody's 21 years old listening to this, but Dr. Nestle is the Ralph Nader of the food industry. If you have a big, large food conglomerate and you make processed food or ultra processed food or snack food, you do not want this woman knocking on your front door because she knows what she's talking about, and she has written 15 books. I tried counting all of the scientific publications that she has published in her career. I stopped at 300 because I started to get tired because it's unbelievable. Her website is called foodpolitics.com, and I encourage every single one of you to go to that site and start reading what she has to say, because she really is in our corner trying to help us eat healthier, learn what to eat, challenge the food industry that would love to have you eat whatever they want to make, and they're really good at doing it. They know how to make the food taste good, and it's not always healthy, and she will attest to it, and I am sure of it. They do not have your best interest at heart when it comes to your health, and that is what Dr. Nestle has really championed and committed her career to. So she is really, really, really in her corner, in our corner. Okay. You know, we've done a bunch of podcasts, Dr. Nestle, and I prepare them. And preparing yours was the hardest that I've done. First of all, I have 7 pages of notes. I had no idea where to start because you are so prolific and so magnificent. I really just didn't know. So I searched for a message. And the message that I took from all of your books, which I have all, was to get organized, eat less, eat better, move more, and get political. How does that grab you? Is that I was going to say to you, I don't know how to start this, so I was going to just turn it over to you for a moment and see if there was someplace you wanted to start and anything you wanted to tell America about your work. If not, I got lots of things to talk about. But this is your moment to introduce yourself or just give your message. That was the best message I got. Did I get close?
Yeah, no, I think that's pretty good. I guess the one that I have 2 messages
Okay.
that I wish everybody would understand. One is that larger portions have more calories. If you eat big portions of food, you're going to take in more calories. It's going to be harder to lose weight. And the other one is to understand that the food industry making products that we love as it does is not a social service agency or a public health agency. It's a business. Its job is to sell more food, not less. So if you as an individual are trying to lose weight or eat healthfully in today's food environment, you are fighting the entire food system on your own, and it's bigger than you are.
Good. Thank you. So I want to return for a moment to what you first said, which was eating less, fewer calories. So you are of the mindset that a calorie is a calorie.
I believe in thermodynamics. As
Great.
far as I know, the first, second, and laws of thermodynamics still
Yeah.
hold.
Right.
And the body doesn't really care from a weight standpoint where the calories come from. It only cares about caloric balance. Health is another matter, and health very
Right.
much cares about what you eat. But
Uh-huh.
from a weight standpoint, it's
A
calories.
calorie is a calorie.
And it is a continual source of amazement to me that people are arguing whether it's more important to
She
eat
said,
protein, fat, or carbohydrate, when it really doesn't matter from a weight standpoint. And 75% of American adults are overweight or obese. So obviously, losing weight is an enormous issue.
we had mentioned earlier before we started that we were talking about the GLP-1s, the new weight loss medications,
Mm,
where I have a medication support group that's been running for
mm.
17 months. And one of the most notable comments that I hear from people with these taking these meds is just how much food they were eating before. The volume of food that they were consuming is unbelievable. Now they're leaving food on their plate and so forth. So this is consistent with what you're describing.
Yeah, I mean, if I can comment on that,
Please.
I had a doctoral student, Lisa Young, who did her
Oh, I know,
dissertation.
Lisa.
Oh, good. Her doctoral dissertation was on measuring the increase in portion size during the 1980s and 90s, and her documentation was very clear that portion sizes got bigger, and that's consistent with a great deal of additional research that showed that people started eating more. What a surprise! Larger portions have more calories.
Yeah.
And people didn't realize it because everybody loves bargains. So restaurant portions got bigger, bagels got bigger, muffins got bigger. People started eating more calories. You eat what's in front of you. Everybody thinks that if it's a portion, it only has 100 calories.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
it's
I
more
mean,
than
when you're at a restaurant and you're looking around, everybody's eating the same amount,
right.
and it just
Huge amounts.
huge amounts. I was at the diabetes conference and I was sitting with a German colleague who had never been to the States, and we were having lunch at the speakers conference, and the food came, and he genuinely thought that the food on his plate was for
But
the
for the
table.
table, right?
He'd never been to the States before,
Right.
so it's true. Let me ask you something. In terms of calories, a calorie. When Kevin Hall, who I know you have a lot to say about, when he did the ultra processed data initially,
Mm-hmm.
where he showed that people who ate more ultra processed food gained a few more pounds. Are you of the mindset that there, even though a calorie is a calorie, which I agree with you, the laws of physics are the laws of physics, but are you of the mindset that if you were to eat a higher amount of ultra processed food, let's say with higher amounts of sugar or so forth, that this might lead to more compensatory mechanisms towards eating more? Are you of that
I'm not sure what
mind?
you mean by that. His data were very clear that when people were eating a diet of ultra processed foods, that is industrial junk foods,
Junk food.
let's just simplify it, junk
Right.
foods. They ate more calories, a lot more calories
Right.
than when they ate a matched diet that was minimally processed. So there's something about the processing that makes the food go down quicker and easier.
That's what I'm asking. Yeah.
It's hyper palatable. He's looking to see what the reasons are for it. But the basic observation, which has now been repeated, was a
Right.
very simple observation, which is that when people were eating these foods, they ate more calories and didn't realize it. Were
Correct.
completely unaware that they were eating more. They found the matched diets to be equally palatable. But somehow we're taking in 500 calories more a day. This is a huge amount. And they
Right.
and they gained a pound a week exactly as you would predict.
Correct. Right. Okay.
Calories
Is
count.
is
Calories
that
count. I'm with.
related? Sorry, is that related to calorie density? I mean, like,
Oh,
a bowl
probably.
of broccoli, for example, versus something that's
Yeah.
processed.
Yeah. I
You
mean,
probably aren't going to finish the broccoli.
yeah, right. And if you're having a salad, you know when you've had enough salad. Oreo cookies, nobody can stop. I certainly can't.
Right. Good. One brief plug for you in terms of your new book coming out in November, which is, as we described earlier, maybe your magnum opus. It's 720 pages. God knows what's in that book. I mean, I know it's a compendium of everything you've written, but there has to be some new things too. Is there anything in particular we should look forward to from that?
Well, it is indeed my magnum opus. It's enormous.
Right.
Um, it's a new edition of What to Eat, a book I published in 2006. It's been retitled What to Eat Now. It's got a lot of new work in it. It came as a real surprise to me. I thought it was going to be a quick 6-month pandemic project, and
Right.
I worked on it for 3 years because it's what I did in it was to go through supermarkets aisle by aisle and talk about the food issues that come up in each section of the supermarket. And I had been paying close attention, so I hadn't realized how much the marketing of food had changed in the intervening 20 years. And that's what this book really is talking about. There was not a single product that I talked about in What to Eat in 2006 that still exists. And there are loads of things I'm talking
Yeah.
about now that didn't exist 20 years ago.
But to your credit, in What to Eat, which you did publish in 2006, you talked about processed food,
Oh, yeah.
and I don't think anybody was talking about it at the time. I think you
Yeah.
were a trailblazer in that way.
Well, I wasn't talking about ultra processed foods,
No,
which is a new concept
right.
that only was invented in 2009. So certainly the new edition is going to talk about ultra processed
Right.
foods a lot.
Could
But
you clarify? Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go
yeah,
ahead.
I mean, but there was a chapter on processing because it's clear that the more processed a food is, the more people like to eat it. And, the easiest example is white bread versus whole wheat bread. As soon as millers could get rid of the bran and the germ in a wheat grain and could make white bread, which happened a very long time ago, people liked it better. People
Right.
like white bread. I like white bread.
Yeah, I was raised on it too. Wonder bread with peanut butter and jelly.
No, I like the fancy stuff.
Oh, you did. Okay.
Yeah,
Is
give me an artisanal sourdough that's
oh, I agree. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
can't beat that.
Is there any merit to discussing for just a brief moment the difference between ultra processed and processed?
Oh yeah,
Since
yeah, yeah. A
could
very
you would you,
important distinction. It's
could,
really an important distinction.
okay,
Um, all foods are processed to some
right,
extent. I mean, anything you buy in a supermarket is at least washed. And usually waxed or something else. But ultra processed is a specific category of foods, industrially produced, containing industrial ingredients, usually that you can't get in a supermarket to cook in your home kitchen. You can't make these foods in your home kitchen because you don't have the equipment and you don't have the additives. And they're deliberately formulated to be irresistibly delicious, if not addictive. We can argue about the addictiveness, but they're certainly irresistibly delicious. And I don't know if you remember the old Bert Lahr commercial for Frito-Lay where he held up a chip saying, "You can't eat just
just
one."
one.
That's the whole point. You can't eat just one. And so the purpose of these foods from the food industry standpoint is for you to eat as much of them as you possibly can, as often as possible, and buy them and buy them and buy them and buy them. And everybody knows what they are. I mean, they're cookies and chips and they're junk foods.
Right, right.
Easily, they're often high in sugar and salt. They've also got these additive texturizers that make them crunchy or make them pretty colors. They contain the color additives that RFK Jr. is trying to get rid of,
Uh,
and I think will succeed. And
yeah,
so the concept was coined in 2009 by Brazilian public health people. And since then, there have been thousands, literally, of
yes,
studies linking ultra processed foods to poor health.
yes.
And
Okay.
then we have Kevin Hall and a group in Japan also that repeated the study, demonstrating that they, if nothing else, induce people to eat more calories.
Right. And may we wish Kevin well, as he was a victim of our administration. By
So it seems.
so it seems they censored him. They terrible. You
And
mentioned. Oh, go ahead. You
oh,
were going to say
then
something.
and he resigned.
Yeah.
Um,
Right.
so somebody should snatch him up.
Someone I'm sure will. You mentioned the food industry, which I want to return to in a few moments. I want to ask you this. Um, I did a quick Google search on all the different kinds of diets, right? So you can imagine Mediterranean, paleo, keto, vegetarian, vegan, plant-based, pescatarian, intermittent fasting, flexitarian, organic, blah, blah. It goes on and on and on and on. Is there, we were talking calories are calories. Is there is there something in all of these diets? Is there something that all Americans need to really pay attention to when you talk about all the different kinds? How do we guide people through
In
this?
diets,
Yeah,
they all work. Every single one of them works as long as you follow them. Um,
works in terms of weight loss, you
you'll
mean,
lose
or
weight if they're weight loss diets. You'll lose weight on them,
okay,
provided you follow them, because they all have tricks that trick you into eating fewer calories. If you don't eat fewer calories on those diets, you won't lose
all right.
weight.
So you really don't have a huge problem if somebody is vegan or they're paleo or they're keto or
Well,
whatever.
they have a few things they need to worry about. If you're vegan, you've got to deal with vitamin B12.
Right,
If,
right,
if you're paleo, really, you should do something about fiber.
right,
You
right.
know, um,
Okay,
but, and I'm not in favor of fad diets. By fad, I mean very popular, but they exclude large categories of foods. I don't think any of that is necessary. If you want to lose weight, you have to eat less. I'm sorry, that's what you have to do,
okay,
and it works every time. If
okay.
you, if you can do it. The problem is it's really hard to do because you're fighting an entire food system on your own.
So that was my next question. I have been in this field 45 years. I have
Mm-hmm.
been in diabetes since 1984 and weight loss.
Mm-hmm.
And I know, and I've run 15, 20,000 weight loss groups, tens
Mm-hmm.
and tens of thousands of people. And my observation is the hardest thing to get people to change in terms of behavior, health behavior, is what they eat.
Oh yeah, because eating is one of life's greatest pleasures.
So, so what would you, if so? What do we say to people who struggle with this behavior change? How
Well,
would you approach it?
I think the first thing you do is validate the struggle. The absolute first thing. It's really hard because you are fighting an entire food system on your own. And that food system is set up to get you to eat as much of the foods that are worst for you as possible because those are the most profitable products. That's what
Correct.
you're up against. So I think once you understand that, then it makes it a little easier to see why you're having so much trouble. One of the things about the GLP-1 drugs that I find fascinating is that people report that they cut down on the food noise.
The first thing they say.
Yeah, and I have to say, I had never heard the term food noise before, but I love it. I think it's so descriptive of what so many people experience, which is if you've got food in the house, you got to eat it. I mean, it's one of the things that I advise people to do if they know that there's a particular food that they have trouble with is don't have it in the house. Because if it's in the house, you're going to eat it. And if it's calling on you and and singing a siren song to you, eat me, eat me, eat me, you're going to have a lot of trouble with it. Don't have it in the house. I'm one of these people who can have these things in the house and eat them or not. But I'm very well aware that not everybody is like that. I'm not somebody who experiences a lot of food noise,
Yeah.
even though I like food a lot. But a lot of people do. And what you describe in people eating enormous amounts of food, that has to do with the food is there, they're going to eat it.
Right.
And also, at my advanced age, I don't need very many calories anymore. So
Right.
I'm convinced that one of the things that happens with age is that you lose the food noise. But we'll see. Anyway,
I will confirm, not that you need any confirmation, but food noise is one of the major issues because the obsessing stops, the craving
mm,
stop. It's
right.
affecting the reward pathway in the
Isn't that
brain.
interesting? I
It,
find that fascinating.
it's fascinating,
Mm,
unbelievable. It's life altering.
yeah.
I wanted to mention very quickly a quick anecdote. When you were talking about if the food is in the house, you're going to eat it, and
Mm,
seeing vision is the strongest sensation and the strongest cue for a trigger. We have had people in our program literally hire locksmiths to come to their home because they have 3 children at home. And what do
um,
children love to eat? And they literally had the locksmith install locks on the cabinets with a name of the person in the home who that cabinet belongs to. And each person got their own key. And that
mm,
way, and
mm.
we had somebody put police tape across the kitchen door. I mean, all the things you're describing are so
Yeah.
accurate. And the
I mean, I think not having it in the house in the first place is a
is
much
the best.
better idea.
It's yeah, you're right. It's tough when you have children. That's what we find. It's tough
Well,
unless you can.
but here again,
Yeah,
those companies are marketing directly to children,
right,
something that I think really needs to stop.
right.
And they are those companies because even though kids don't have their own money, those companies are marketing to children to get the children to demand products, to pester their parents, called the pester factor, to pester their parents for the products, to nag the parents. They know perfectly well that no parent wants to fight with their children about food because there's too many other things to fight about.
Okay, right.
And this is a way that you can treat your child at very low cost and make your kid happy at very low cost. And food companies take advantage of that. I
Correct.
think that's wrong.
Yeah,
I think that's morally wrong, ethically wrong,
yeah,
and should stop.
yeah.
And I've heard food company executives say, we know that marketing to children is wrong, but it's our line in the sand. Because if we stop marketing to children, our stockholders will get upset.
Yep. There was a
And
story about. Go ahead. Were you going to say
There you
something else?
go.
yeah,
Yeah. There's a story
real
of. Oh, go ahead,
real quick.
Alex.
So, on the marketing end of it, is the marketing ethical in any way, shape, or form? Because from
No.
reading your book, I got the sense that we shouldn't believe anything that any food package really has, as a claim to a health benefit.
Yeah, everything that's on the package is there for marketing purposes. And the companies will do everything they possibly can to market to whatever appeals to you, whether it's taste or health or environment or whatever the current cause is. Um, some of it backed up by some research, some of it not. But the entire purpose of a food package is marketing. The book that I've just turned in the manuscript for, which is scheduled to be published sometime in 2026, I hope, is a book about cereals.
Oh,
And it's a co-authored volume about breakfast cereals, and it's a deconstruction of the cereal box. I did it with a co-author who's a former vice president of Kellogg, and we've deconstructed the cereal box with many, many illustrations of cereal boxes because I've collected them for years. And it shows how every single element on that box that's not required by the FDA is there for marketing purposes and how it works. And this includes the pictures, the cartoons, the health claims, the nutrient claims, the games on the back, the philanthropic designations, every single thing that's on there is for marketing purposes. Some of it marketed to adults and some of it to kids.
yeah,
And they're just a terrific example of how the
yeah,
marketing works. And it's the relentlessness of it
right,
that
right,
is, and the focus. It is,
yeah.
everything is focused on selling the product.
And
Once you
they
understand that, it makes everything easier to understand.
know how to do it,
Oh,
and
they're
they
good.
know they know how
Ooh.
to make it taste perfect.
Mhm.
I was telling Alex before, McDonald's French fries are probably the greatest on earth, and they still taste exactly the same to me today that they did when I was a child because they have the formula. They're not giving that in formula away, but
Oh,
yeah.
well,
I want to come back to something you said earlier, and then I do want to move on to the food industry. But you mentioned addiction, and I just would like to get your take on
mm.
whether you believe that food is addictive, or can be addictive for people. I believe it is. What's your take?
Yeah, I mean, I tend to be evidence based, and certainly the addictive researchers say that food has exactly the same effects on dopamine that
Exactly.
opiate drugs do, only to a lesser extent,
Yes.
and that people who report feeling addicted to foods report the same kinds of behavioral issues as do people who are addicted to drugs or cigarettes or alcohol or whatever. And I let them decide that. It's not something I'm comfortable with because food is something that we have to eat.
Right.
You don't have to smoke. You don't have to take opioids. You don't have to drink alcohol, but you have to eat. You must have calories and nutrients or you can't survive. So that makes me a little bit uncomfortable on the addictive side. And the thing that Kevin Hall got into trouble over at NIH was a study that he did, which was that the ultra processed foods did not stimulate dopamine in the same way that one might expect. And apparently NIH was upset about that.
Right.
So I don't know. I think the research remains to be done. There will be a lot more of it, and I'm just trying to stay open minded on it.
Okay. When I teach it, people tell me, oh, you shouldn't teach it as food as addiction because then it will label the patient or individual as an addict, and that's pejorative. But the fact is, my experience is when you explain to them how their dopamine receptors are downregulated and
Mm.
they need more substance, just like a chronic cocaine user or alcohol abuser, that if you showed it to a neuroscientist, the dopamine receptors look the same in all three conditions. And it's like from the oversaturation of the dopamine, these receptors are shutting down somewhat. And so it's indistinguishable, as you say. So
Mm.
that's where
Yeah, I
I
mean,
think
in a sense, we're all addicted to food. We have to eat to live.
that's right. But the good news about it, though, the way that I frame it is, yes, that is, it's bad news. We got to eat. You don't have to have alcohol. You don't have to have a line of cocaine, a shot of scotch. However, the good news is that you can learn to enjoy food, and you can't learn to enjoy a line of Coke.
Well,
What do you
yeah.
think?
I
No?
don't know. I don't know. I don't do cocaine, so I don't know what kind of pleasure it gives. I imagine it gives pleasure.
Well, it does, and it's just highly addictive. I'm just saying
Mm,
that the
mm.
difference.
Yeah, I mean, I happen to love food. I'm a foodie through and
Yes,
through.
sure.
I think food is really important on many, many levels.
Many socially, everything.
Yeah,
It's what we
but
celebrate.
certainly is a source of pleasure several times a day.
I'm with you. All right. I'd like to switch gears a little bit and move to um, the food industry for a moment. Is there, I've finally immersed myself into social media and for the first time begrudgingly. There's so much misinformation, and the food industry is serving some of this. What what approach can we take? There doesn't seem to be any accountability online. There is no, I was listening to a video with Alex, and I stopped. Alex is a very smart guy, and this fella on video was presenting himself as a doctor, and he explained insulin completely backward. He just had the science all wrong. And I just got so upset, and I stopped the video and I said, Alex, you are a very smart guy. The man has a master's degree in computer science, very smart. He would have been a little bit dumber had he listened to this fella and believed him. What are we supposed to do about the millions of videos that are out there that people are listening to? How do
Well,
we get your message out?
well, I don't know. I mean, I write a daily blog at foodpolitics.com.
Okay.
I'm about to take on a column for a food magazine that's online.
Okay.
Um, Although that deal hasn't been set yet, but I'm about to do that in an attempt to reach a wider audience with
Okay. Good.
fact-based material. When people ask me, I say, who should you believe about nutrition? Me, of course.
Well,
I don't know what else to say.
yeah.
It's very, very difficult to distinguish. I mean, the first line is, does it make sense? Use common sense. If it doesn't make sense, if it contradicts everything you thought you knew, it's probably wrong. And you should be skeptical. You have to be skeptical about everything you see on
Right.
social media because so much of it is wrong and you choose who you want to believe. That's the problem. We have it's very, very difficult to be fooled, and a lot of people are very convincing. And the repetition of the same wrong message over and over and over and over again is very convincing.
Yeah. It sinks
Um,
in.
and it requires, again, you're fighting a whole food system on your own.
Do you ever feel like
I
this is a Davy versus
just
Goliath phenomenon for you? That you're Davy and
Well,
you're up against this gigantic food, multi-trillion-dollar conglomerate of food.
I never think about it that way. I mean, I don't think of myself as fighting the food industry. I think of myself as trying to make sense out of what's going on in a way that people can understand.
Okay. All right.
And that's what I'm trying to do, is just
Good.
make sense out of it.
All right.
I'm critical of the food industry, obviously, but I understand what it's about. It's a business
Yeah.
trying to make money. I get that. I
Right.
totally get that. And what follows from that makes everything else make a lot of sense to me.
Right. Okay.
Because, if you follow the money in a lot of this, it's not a bad way to start. It's not a complete explanation, but it's certainly a good starting point, and you can get pretty far in your analysis if you follow the money.
Okay. Very good.
I do
I,
think that a lot of what we see influencers do online is basically validate our bad habits. And like there's somebody out there that says vegetables are trying to kill us.
Oh,
There's
right.
somebody else says that raw liver is the answer.
Right. So then
Or
you think, well, what have I been taught in school? Does this contradict it, or is this consistent? If it contradicts it, be a little skeptical.
okay.
yeah,
We're going to put you on our website, and I'm going to have links to everything you've done.
Well,
I've
thank
just
you.
decided. Yes, and Alex is
Thank
our
you.
webmaster, so he's now
Yeah,
been ordered.
just link to my blog. That would be
I'm going
nice.
to. I intend to. I want to switch gears to our administration. And
Okay.
I could just simply ask you, what do you think? But, and maybe I should, but
Mhm.
it doesn't, it seems like a mixed message. It seems like the science isn't backing up what we're being told. I mean, Robert Kennedy was a lawyer. He's now the Secretary of Health. What is he doing in that position? And he made a comment recently that type 1 diabetes can be reversed with food. And now I will go online and I will go,
Oh dear.
no one else is brave enough to say it. He's an idiot because
Type 2, right? If he said type 2, he'd be
two,
right.
if he said type 2, but he said
He'd be
type 1.
right.
He
Hmm.
said type 1. And
Oh
and and
dear.
and he's getting away with that, and people believe it, and then people feel bad. I mean, so what is your comment about what's happening
Well,
in the
it's
administration?
mind boggling. I mean, my mind is boggled. First of all, let's just start from when President Trump introduced Robert F. Kennedy Jr. as his nominee for the head of Health and Human Services. He said he was going to fix the industrial food complex. I thought, President Trump is talking about the industrial food complex. He sounds just like me. And then Kennedy got and said that the food industry is poisoning us. Wait a minute, this sounds just like me. Um, and so forth and so on. But what he's actually done is what you have to look at. And so far, what he's done, I think, quite successfully, is gotten food companies to get rid of artificial color dyes,
Right.
the coal tar petroleum dyes that he thinks are poisoning children, poisoning America. I don't, but okay. It's time to get rid of them. Food advocates have been trying to get rid of the color dyes for decades. He has made them the focus of what he wants to do. And companies, one by one, are saying, we're going to get rid of the dyes. Good. It's about time. This is
Okay.
this is excellent. There's enough research to back up the need for this. It's not totally compelling research, which is why the FDA has always said these are really okay in the amounts generally consumed. Let's get rid of them. It's fine. I don't have any problem with that. I think it's a good idea, but it's not going to make America's children healthy again because
Yeah.
they're still going to be eating the same foods.
Right.
Um,
Eh,
so wait.
oh, go
Wait.
ahead.
Let me just finish.
Oh, no, no, go ahead.
Yeah. So great on color additives. Great on let's get the generally recognized as safe chemical additives in the food supply cleaned up. Let's close the loophole that allows companies to decide for themselves whether the additives are safe. And let's start looking at the chemicals that are in the food supply. Terrific. I'm all for that. But then he talks about seed oils as poison when, from what I can tell, 99% of the evidence shows that substituting seed oils for fats that are more highly saturated would be very good for health. And the big problem with seed oils, as far as I can tell, is they've got 120 calories per tablespoon, and people have to watch out for the calories. So that one doesn't make sense. And then we won't even start on fluoride, which I think has done wonders for
Yes.
dental health, but is not good if the amounts are too high. But the low levels of fluoride that are supposed to be in water are a really good public health measure. And vaccinations have saved the lives of millions and millions of people.
Right.
So he's a mixed bag.
Okay.
And we don't really know what he plans to do until the first report, which was an assessment of child health and a damning indictment of the health of American children, which I thought was an enormous step forward. What he's going to do about it remains to be seen. And that report is due out by the end of the summer. I'm very interested to see what they're going to say.
Right. Uh, they're sort of obliterating some of the public assistance, food
Oh,
stamps,
yeah.
WIC, Women, Infants, and Children,
Yeah,
Medicaid.
they've cut
They're,
school lunches.
uh,
They've
they're
they've cut farm to school programs. So on the one hand, they're absolutely undermining what Kennedy says he wants to do.
right. I mean, they've cut the WIC program. They're cutting it from $54 monthly benefits to $13 for children. How are lower socioeconomic folks able to do this? We're giving them one message, but we're taking away
Right,
the ability to do
right.
that. And the same thing with Medicare, our senior citizens, Medicare beneficiaries who are being cut for GLP-1s, for instance. They've taken away the ability for Medicare. They've turned back the Biden thing. So I guess we're on the same page with
Yeah, I
this.
mean, so it's mixed, and we just don't know yet.
Yeah,
No, we have to look at what's actually been done. What's actually been done is that SNAP has been cut, WIC has been cut, Medicaid has been cut,
right,
and vaccinations are being destroyed. Fluoride is being destroyed. I mean, so I don't think color additives are going to make up for it.
right.
I'm,
Um,
I'm
did,
also curious, for example, something like hot dogs in school lunches, right? We know that hot dogs are supposedly carcinogenic, right?
It
So
depends
why
on
isn't anybody doing anything about that?
it
I-
depends on
Is
how they're made. I'm not familiar with the recipe for hot dogs in school lunches, but there are standards for what can and cannot be served in school lunches, and we'll
okay?
see what they do about that. That's not Kennedy. That's Department of Agriculture.
I see.
And
right,
so that remains to be seen. They haven't really tackled school lunches yet, except to cut them. The amount of
correct.
money and they were already grossly underfunded. Already. I mean, I don't know how school districts are going to manage this. And they cut the farm to school program, which brought fresh fruits and vegetables into schools.
Yeah.
So, on the one hand, the color additives, fine. On the other hand, everything else, and color additives are not going to fix the problem.
So, Dr. Nessel, in your long, illustrious career, have you ever considered running for office?
Oh, good God, no.
But you are the perfect Surgeon General.
Oh,
You are
no,
the
I'm not.
perfect health education. You why are you not HS? Why is it RFK, not you?
Because I'm
Did
a
you
critical thinker.
well,
I mean,
okay,
I,
fair enough.
and I say what I
That's a
think.
great answer.
And I say what I think. If
So
you're a politician, you can't say what you think, or you
okay.
get killed by people who don't agree with you. And
I wasn't expecting you to answer that way, but I
oh,
appreciate it.
no, I mean, I think, and you would have to take corporate money in order to do that. I couldn't do that.
I see. So it never crossed your mind. I'm doing it. I'm
Absolutely not.
so fired up.
No,
All right.
absolutely not. I'm
And
very happy to be quietly behind the scenes writing my blog for the small number of people who read it. But there are people who
okay.
care about the issues, so it's a great readership.
So can you talk for a moment or just comment on in terms of the approach to this? Is it legislation? Is it social policy? What is it? Where should the average person or where should any of us put our focus? Should it be on legislation? I mean, there's a lot of legislation already
Well,
on the
it
books.
depends. It depends on who you are and what you want to do. All kinds of advocacy are useful. I think the best thing, I mean, the kinds of things that have worked in the past, taking to the streets, writing your congressional representatives, don't seem to be working right now. I
Right.
tell everybody to operate at the local level because you can do a great deal in your community or in your state that you can't possibly do on the national level now. But all kinds of advocacy are useful. And this means writing letters to your newspaper, talking to your neighbors, canvassing door to door, running for local office, running for the local school board, the city council, whatever, are all very, very useful things to do. Anything that you do is better than not doing anything.
Okay. Do you have a comment on just the fact that every 5 years the USDA comes out with new guidelines and we don't know what to make of it? Do you
Um,
have any comment on that? I mean, I understand science, I
yes.
understand research, and it's a slow process, and it's on a learning curve. But do you have any comment on just
Yeah, I mean, the thing about I think the dietary guidelines process is a waste of time because they have not changed since
right,
1980. In 1980, they said eat more fruits, vegetables, and whole grains. Don't eat too much saturated fat, sugar, or salt,
right,
and balance calories. And they still say exactly the same things. Whether RFK Jr. will change that, as he has promised to very soon. And they are the reporters tell me the new dietary guidelines are going to come out any minute now.
right, right,
I don't know whether that's true or not because I don't have an inside track. But what he will do with them, I have no idea. He has vowed to make them a 4 or 5 page, very, very simple set of precepts going back to what they were like in 1980. And I'm very eager to see what they're going to say. From what he has said, they're going to talk about color additives, chemicals in the food supply, and seed oils. Um, I don't know what the context will be. Is he going to advise eating more meat? The Secretary of Health and the Secretary of Agriculture has said the guidelines are going to get rid of leftist ideology. And I thought, leftist ideology? When did leftist ideology ever inform the dietary guidelines? And the only thing I could think of was, I wonder if they mean plant based. I wonder if they mean advice to eat. Could you hear that?
yes.
I'm in the middle of a thunderstorm. I'm upstate New York.
Oh,
The
okay,
In the middle of a thunderstorm. The uh, the Dietary Guidelines Advisory Committee, the Scientific Advisory Committee, talked a lot about the need to eat more plants. And that may be what they consider to be leftist ideology. I don't know. We won't know until they come out.
okay. Marion, I'm going to ask you a question that everybody probably wants to know. What are you going to have for dinner tonight?
Oh, I don't have the faintest idea.
Okay.
I really don't know. I'm upstate with my partner, and we'll look in the refrigerator and see what's there, and pull something together.
Okay. Uh, Thank you. Um, all right. I'm keeping an eye on the time. We want to respect your time.
Mhm.
We're at 47 minutes. If you could, let me summarize a little bit about what I've heard from you today and maybe some of the things that I wasn't uh, 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 sure you would say or anything. But number one, a calorie is a calorie. So in order to lose weight, we need to consume fewer calories, less volume. This year, we're on the exact same page. I was a little surprised to hear you say you weren't as concerned about what people were eating. You're concerned, clearly, but you weren't as concerned about what people are eating as much as the volume or the
Oh, for
calories.
weight. Only for
For weight.
only for weight.
Okay. So for health, it's something for cardiovascular
Yeah.
disease.
Although it's much easier to control calorie intake if you're eating minimally processed foods
Right.
than it is if you're eating ultra processed foods. So
Right.
in that sense, the advice goes in the same direction.
Okay.
You want
Got
to
it.
be healthy, eat plants. You want to lose weight, eat plants.
Okay.
They have
Under,
fewer calories.
right.
As a
Okay.
vegan, I'm very happy to hear you say that.
Vegan diets are very healthy, but watch out for B12.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there anything else you'd like to just let America know?
No, except that, yeah, I mean, eating is one of life's greatest pleasures. You should eat the foods you love, just not too much.
Sage advice. It has been a pleasure. I want to keep it to the time that we said that we promised you. it's just been a privilege to frankly have you on and have your insights. And, I run a weight loss program, Transformation Weight Control, and we follow many of the things you talk about, where we don't focus on just one thing or another. We give people choices, but we give them the information to help them make the decisions. But we give them the authoritative information, the real information, the research, evidence-based information like you do. And let people guide them, but help them to decide, or let them decide, so that, because they enjoy food, and it's very difficult, as you say, to make anybody change. We used to have a Friday conference at our research center, and I said to everybody there, when they're questioning me, I said, all right, you know what, this week before next Friday's conference, I want everybody to change what you eat this week. Well, suddenly they all shut up, because suddenly so I feel confirmed or validated by the fact of the information you're giving, that we're
Right.
taking the right approach to this and giving people, adults, the choice, and that we're fighting. We're fighting big industry, right? I mean, there's a reason why the snack foods are at eye level in the supermarket, right? Because they pay to put it there. Or Barnes and Noble checkout has Godiva chocolate. What is Godiva chocolate doing at the Barnes and Noble checkout? I
Making
was
money for Barnes and Noble.
Exactly right. I was at Radio Shack one day. I was looking for a power strip, and I come around the corner, and there's a candy counter in Radio Shack when they were still in business, and it's like the M&Ms are calling to me. And this is, I say to people sometimes, if you were addicted to alcohol, let's say, and everywhere you looked, you saw, where you see food, you saw alcohol instead. How easy would it be for you to stop drinking
Yeah,
alcohol?
very difficult.
Right.
Yeah, just remember that eating less is bad for business.
Okay. Okay, very good. Marion, thank you so much. With the greatest respect, I am in awe of everything you've done and
Well,
your whole
thanks so
career.
much.
And really, it has been, you are an icon of the 20th and 21st century. And truthfully, this is our podcast of podcasts. And I'm just very grateful that you
Oh,
honored
well,
us with
thanks.
your
It's
presence.
been
So
fun talking to you.
yeah, it's been lovely. And I'm going to say hi to Pam for you.
Please
I'm
do.
going to go email her right now,
Please do.
and Lisa as well. All right, thank you. Alex, anything else?
No, it was a pleasure listening to you, and I love your books. And we will take all of your info and put it in our show notes so people can
Great.
access your blog and your upcoming book.
Okay, great.
And then I will send you a link to our podcast so you can see this if you
Okay,
would like
great.
to. Yeah.
Good.
All
And
right.
I'll
Thank you
post it
again.
on my website.
Thank you very much for your
Okay,
graciousness.
great.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye bye.
I have to go
Yep.
close windows.